I talked with King Fahd just before I left, and the last meeting that I had with him as ambassador, and I talked about basically about the use of their wealth. And I said, look, you didn't put the oil under your ground. God did. He believed in God. And I knew that he would accept that. In any case, the Arabs had nothing to do with putting the oil there. And you didn't exploit it either. The Americans exploited it. And you have been given extraordinary wealth. And you have squandered this. Most of it has been wasted. If you use this money wisely, you'll be blessed for 1,000 years. You can transform not only Saudi Arabia, not only the Arab world, but you can transform all of Dar al-Islam, I said. And I said, if you waste this money, your descendants are going to dig up your bones and burn them. Everybody in the world wants to find oil because they think how wonderful this will be, what a great blessing it will be for us, but oil is a curse.
In the late 1970s, a period of outrageous oil wealth, the euphoric members of OPEC hadn't yet realized that the downpour of petrodollars would soon run dry and turn into a curse.
Il est vrai que les gens à l'époque ne pensaient pas qu'il y aurait un contre-choc. Tout le monde leur disait mais ça va continuer à monter. Les experts internationaux disaient vous en faites pas, en 2000 vous serez à $100 le baril. Donc ils pouvaient même emprunter, si vous voulez, sur un avenir qui leur apparaissait comme absolument sans problème. Et tout le monde les a encouragés. Donc ils ont quelques excuses.
At the beginning of the 1980s, while the OPEC producers' power was still rising, the world's consumption of oil was decreasing, largely as a result of increasing use of nuclear power for electricity, and in part due to an increase in the philosophy of saving energy. Fueled too by overproduction of oil in 1982, the odds turned in favor of the consuming countries. All the factors for a third oil crisis, or rather a counter-crisis, were in place. In March 1982, OPEC tried to stop the crisis by limiting production through quotas. But the financial needs of OPEC member states continued to increase, and they failed to respect the quotas they had themselves agreed on. Member countries resorted to wild competition between themselves in the hope of conquering the market. The very existence of the organization was threatened, with only Saudi Arabia continuing to play ball.
L'Arabie saoudite, qui a la plus grosse capacité dans les pays de l'OPEC, essaye de faire régner l'ordre en respectant, elle, ses quotas, mais malgré tout, elle n'arrive pas à faire régner l'ordre dans le cartel, et chacun triche plus ou moins. L'Arabie réduit sa production jusqu'à passer à moins de la moitié de sa capacité. Et puis un jour, pendant cette période, les prix s'effritent entre 83 et 86, ou fin 85. Et l'Arabie, un jour, décide qu'elle va reprendre sa part de marché, réaugmenter sa production en faisant des contrats incitatifs pour les sociétés pétrolières internationales à prendre du brut saoudien. C'est les contrats dits netback, on ne rentrera pas dans la cuisine de comment ça fonctionnait, mais ça permettait aux sociétés d'être sûres de gagner de l'argent sur le pétrole saoudien. Et donc à partir de là, il y a surproduction et écroulement des prix. C'est le contre-choc de 86.
From 1985 to 1986, the price of crude was halved, from $28 to $14, and was occasionally even quoted as low as $10. This had disastrous consequences for OPEC's members, whose debts became truly threatening. It was the end of an age. As Sheikh Yamani, former oil minister of Saudi Arabia, put it, we were the victims of our own moments of pleasure. OPEC realized that ousting the majors in the 1970s for the benefit of national companies hadn't proved effective. So by the late 1980s, they reacted by opening their doors once more to foreign companies, in the hope that their oil resources would be better managed.
Donc on voit qu'au fond, tout le monde, à des degrés divers, est en train de rappeler les sociétés pétrolières internationales. Et je crois que ça, c'est une des très très grandes leçons. C'est un contre-choc, je dirais, au niveau de la structure de l'industrie. Que chacun se rend compte qu'au fond, les sociétés jouent un rôle utile. Ce ne sont pas des parasites, ce qui a été souvent la façon dont elles ont été décrites à l'époque des nationalisations. Bien évidemment, elles sont là pour faire du profit et de prélever des bénéfices, mais elles apportent, un, des capitaux, et dans certains pays c'est nécessaire, deux, une technicité, un savoir-faire, une organisation. Ce n'est pas tellement la technologie, j'aime pas beaucoup ce terme, c'est beaucoup plus une capacité d'organisation et d'exécution méthodique des choses que les sociétés nationales maîtrisent moins bien.
By the end of 1986, the crisis seemed to have been halted, leaving OPEC poorer and weakened. They had finally lost the power they had since the first oil crisis and had lost their oil income to the advantage of the consuming countries. But in 1990, this fragile balance was once again threatened by war. In August 1990, 2 years after the Iran-Iraq war, which had almost ruined both parties, Saddam Hussein, convinced of his impunity, dared to break a taboo. He ordered the invasion of his Arab neighbor, Kuwait, an oil monarchy and an OPEC member. Under the pretext that Kuwait was once a province of the Ottoman Empire, Saddam Hussein's dream was to take its oil wealth. This would also give Iraq access to the sea, with obvious advantages for oil transport. Following a lightning conquest, Saddam Hussein now controlled over a fifth of all oil produced in the world. But his victory was short-lived. The UN condemned this invasion and allowed military intervention. A 30-nation-strong coalition was formed under the leadership of the United States, the only remaining superpower after the fall of the communist bloc. During the night of January the 17th, 1991, Operation Desert Storm began. For 43 days, intense bombing and precision airstrikes destroyed Iraq's infrastructure and crushed the occupying troops in Kuwait. In February 1991, it took Allied troops only 100 hours to push Iraq beyond the borders. Saddam Hussein ordered his troops to sabotage 750 Kuwaiti oil wells. This was the dark epilogue of Operation Desert Storm. The last oil conflict of the 20th century could have triggered a major fuel crisis, but it didn't, thanks to the impressive strength of the international oil system. For the following years, production balanced ever-increasing oil consumption. But behind the apparent good health of the industry, a global threat still lurks. Oil reserves will inevitably dry out. This may be one of the greatest challenges of the 21st century, and one the world will have to face together.